The Earth supports an immense diversity of life forms. Grasslands support a host of grazing herds living communally with predators who hunt, and microbes who scavenge and decompose. Coral reefs host schools of fish and tiny invertebrates who thread in and out of the coral. It's impossible to gauge how many species live on our planet. In 2011, though, scientists estimated around 8.7 million species have called Earth home at some stage, past and present, but most have never been properly classified and named. Around 1.8 million, though, are recognised, and scientists identify around 18,000 new species every year. Despite the Earth's richness, species loss is a real threat. The International Union for Conservation of Nature, or the IUCN, assessed over 116,000 species between 1964 and 2020. Over 31,000 of those species are threatened with extinction. And that's just the species that were assessed, just what we know about. All life on Earth is connected. Scientists refer to this as the web of life. Each species plays an important role in the life of others. When one falls, there are knock-on effects right across a variety of ecosystems, causing a domino effect that may lead to further species loss. When one part of an ecosystem dies, the whole is affected and everything becomes a little more fragile, a little less able to adapt. Consider birds. Many fruit-eating birds are responsible for seed dispersion. When they eat fruit, they take in seeds. These seeds pass through the bird's digestion unharmed. Some eventually land in fertile environments and turn into new fruit trees. These produce food for other species and act as a carbon collector. Reduce tree populations, and that means a decrease in animal life and an increase in carbon levels, which contributes to negative climate change. Species loss contributes to many things, including changes in the food chain, also problems with pollination, climate change, and it can cause a loss of potential new resources like therapeutics, new medicines which might be taken from plants. While scientists can't document every interaction in the web of life, they're clear about one thing: species loss matters. And the more species we lose, the worse for the planet. Major factors in species loss include habitat loss, disease, overexploitation, introduced and invasive species, climatic changes, and pollution. Humans are also a driving factor. Current methods of food production are a concern as they create habitat loss and difficult environments. Shifts towards sustainable production are important for helping return to balance. Other human activities driving species loss include harvesting, logging, hunting, fishing, and urbanisation. Some species are more vulnerable than others. Vulnerability is affected by several factors, including rarity, ability to disperse, degree of specialisation, population variability, trophic level, lifespan and reproductive rate. By understanding these factors, conservationists can make plans for species recovery and for threat management. Threat management plans are used by a variety of organisations. Detailed plans are intended to tackle vulnerability factors and protect affected species. They're implemented when a species is under threat, ideally before active recovery is necessary. Typically, threat management plans would do 4 things. First, outline actions to manage the threatening process. Second, explain how to measure the success of those actions. Thirdly, identify authorities responsible for carrying out the actions. And finally, provide priorities and timetables, along with costings for those actions to be carried out. A threat management plan by itself doesn't do a lot though. It's only as good as its supporters. Plans are dependent on the cooperation and participation of government agencies, conservation organisations, corporations, and the community. Threat management plans and recovery plans go hand in hand. Recovery plans are intended to help mitigate species loss. They're usually implemented for endangered species. A good recovery plan assesses what is needed to bring a species back to a healthy state, alongside a set of criteria defining what a healthy state is. It also includes a time frame and an estimated cost. Actions in a recovery plan vary, but may include identification of threats to the species, specific areas and populations under threat, and critical habitat of threatened species. Recovery plans may also include monitoring threatened populations, collection of biological and ecological data, maintaining or enhancing habitat for threatened species, pest control programs, quarantining threatened habitats such as putting fencing around it, harvesting for genetic variation, captive breeding programs, and translocation of populations or individuals required. For example, frog species suffering local extinctions might be moved into a zoo or into captivity so they can be bred up. Many programs also include community education and involvement and a review of recovery actions. One of the most important elements of wildlife recovery is captive breeding. Captive breeding is a strategy used to increase numbers of critically endangered species when the species population is so low that extinction is likely. These programs are generally designed to meet a clear set of goals, such as improving the survival and recovery of the species in the wild, maintaining a healthy age structure within the population, ensuring reproduction is successful, protecting the population against disease, preserving a sufficiently diverse gene pool to avoid inbreeding, and re-establishing or restocking wild populations when necessary. Although there have been some successes with captive breeding programs, they remain controversial. Critics have argued that such programs can remove important individuals from the wild populations at critical times. While such programs aim to increase genetic diversity, they can result in introducing highly inbred and therefore vulnerable populations into the wild species population. This can threaten genetic diversity and adaptability. This can increase the risk of endangerment and extinction. Captive breeding programs can also cause problems in terms of wild survival. Captively bred animals may be unable to adjust in the wild and die when they're released back into the natural environment. Wildlife conservation and management is everyone's responsibility. Every action we take, from selecting produce at a market through to planting native species, has an effect on the species richness of our planet. Species cannot survive without everyone's help.